In the vast wilderness of the frontier, where the forests whispered old stories and the rivers ran with secrets, there lived a young woman named Clara. She was the daughter of a harsh settler man, Elias Cooper, who valued his land and livestock more than his only child. Her mother had died when Clara was little, and since then, she had become both the servant and the soul of their lonely cabin on the edge of the Kentucky frontier. She was known among neighboring families for her beauty, long auburn hair that gleamed like fire in the sun and eyes the color of clear spring water. But more than that, Clara had a spirit, gentle, brave, and kind, that made her stand out in a world ruled by men and hardship. Elias Cooper had long struggled to keep his farm alive. Crops failed, cattle vanished to thieves, and his debts grew heavier with every passing season. The nearby townspeople had stopped extending him credit. By spring, Elias's only hope to keep his property was a man named Rufus Kane, an outlaw known as much for his cruelty as for his wealth. Rufus had made his fortune robbing traders, smuggling whiskey, and dealing in stolen horses. He was nearly 50, with a rough beard streaked gray and eyes that burned with cold greed. Rufus had always wanted a wife, not out of love, but because he wanted a woman to control, someone who could make him look respectable among settlers. When he saw Clara at the trading post one summer afternoon, he decided she would be his. Elias didn't take long to agree. For a man drowning in debt, the offer Rufus made, gold coins and a team of horses, was irresistible. Clara's heart broke the night she overheard her father talking about the deal. "You'll be safe with Rufus," Elias said gruffly when she pleaded with him. "He's got money and land. A woman like you needs a husband, not dreams." But Clara knew the kind of man Rufus was. The fear in her eyes meant nothing to her father. The marriage was arranged for the following week. On the morning of her forced wedding, the cabin smelled of gun oil and whiskey. Clara stood in her mother's old dress, trembling. Rufus arrived with 2 armed men, laughing and swaggering like a king. The preacher was summoned, and the vows were spoken, but Clara's lips barely moved. When Rufus leaned in to kiss her, she turned her head away. His grip on her chin was rough, his breath sour with liquor. "You'll learn, girl," he muttered. "You're mine now." That night, as the cabin filled with the sound of drunken laughter, Clara ran. Barefoot, she fled into the forest, clutching only a small satchel in her mother's locket. Branches tore at her dress, mud clung to her feet, and tears blurred her vision. Behind her, Rufus's furious shouts echoed in the dark. He and his men followed on horseback, their torches burning through the night like fire snakes in the trees. Clara ran until her strength gave out, collapsing near the edge of a stream that marked the border of Shawnee hunting grounds. She prayed for mercy, from God, from fate, from anyone listening. And that's when she saw him. A shadow stepped from between the trees, tall, strong, silent. His hair was braided with leather, his chest painted with symbols that glimmered faintly in the moonlight. He was a Shawnee warrior named Waya, son of the tribe's war leader. His bow was drawn, his eyes sharp, but when he saw Clara's torn dress in her trembling hands, his expression softened. "You run from white man?" he asked in broken English. Clara nodded, breathless. "He'll kill me if he finds me." Waya studied her for a long moment, then motioned for her to follow. He led her deeper into the woods, through narrow trails and hidden ravines. They reached a small cave near a waterfall, where he gave her water and wrapped a deer hide around her shivering shoulders. That night, Clara slept for the first time without fear. When morning came, Waya returned from hunting with food, roasted rabbit and berries. He asked her no questions, but his eyes were curious. She told him her story in fragments, her voice breaking. He listened silently, then said, "You safe here. I tell my people." But safety in those lands was fragile. Rufus Kane was relentless. He sent word across the frontier, offering gold to anyone who brought his runaway bride back alive. Men began searching, following footprints, questioning travelers. Soon, Rufus himself led a group toward the Shawnee border, knowing the tribe's territory was dangerous but too proud to stop. Meanwhile, in the Shawnee village, Clara was met with cautious eyes. Many did not trust settlers, but when they saw her kindness, helping with children, tending fires, and thanking everyone in their tongue, they began to accept her. The old women gave her a new name, Ahioka, meaning, she brings joy. Waya, who had saved her life, began to spend more time with her. He taught her words in Shawnee, showed her how to track deer, and spoke of his people's way, honor, balance, respect for the land. Over time, Clara's fear melted into something deeper, admiration, and then love. When she looked at Waya, she saw not just a warrior but a man who had given her freedom when no one else would. His presence was calm and powerful, and his eyes, though fierce in battle, turned gentle whenever they met hers. One night by the fire, as the tribe celebrated a hunt, Waya took her hand and asked, "Do you wish to stay?" Clara hesitated. "Your people would allow that." He nodded. "If you are my wife, you are one of us." Her heart beat fast. She thought of her father, of Rufus, of the pain and cruelty she had escaped. She looked into Waya's eyes, eyes that had saved her from a nightmare, and whispered, "Yes." The next day, under the rising sun, they were wed in a Shawnee ceremony. The tribe gathered, painted in bright colors, singing songs of new beginnings. Waya placed a feather in her hair and promised to protect her for life. Clara smiled through tears, feeling peace for the first time in years. But peace would not last long. Rufus Kane finally tracked her down. One evening, as Waya and a few hunters returned to camp, smoke rose from the trees. The settlers had come. Rufus and his men had surrounded the village, firing shots and shouting threats. "Give me the girl," Rufus roared. "She's mine by law." The Shawnee stood their ground, bows drawn. Waya stepped forward, his expression like stone. "She is not yours," he said in perfect English. "She is my wife." Rufus sneered. "You think that means something? She's white, she belongs with her own kind. Her kind is the one who treats her as human," Waya said coldly. The standoff grew tense. Then Rufus fired the first shot. Chaos erupted. Arrows flew, rifles cracked, and the forest echoed with battle cries. Clara hid behind the women, praying. She saw Waya fall to one knee, blood staining his arm, but he rose again with fury and struck down two attackers. When Rufus charged toward him, gun raised, Waya moved like lightning, tackling him to the ground. They fought savagely, fists and knives clashing in the dirt. At last, Rufus grabbed his pistol and aimed it at Clara. "You'll come back to me, or I'll kill him," he shouted. Clara screamed, and in that split second, Waya hurled his tomahawk. It struck Rufus square in the chest. The outlaw staggered, gasped, and fell. The fight ended. Silence fell over the battlefield. The remaining settlers fled, leaving Rufus's body behind. Waya, bloodied but alive, went to Clara. She ran into his arms, sobbing. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." The tribe buried Rufus near the river, far from the village, without ceremony. Elias Cooper, ashamed of what he had done, came months later searching for his daughter. When he found her living among the Shawnee, radiant and at peace, he fell to his knees. "Clara, I was wrong," he said. "I only wanted to keep the farm. I didn't see what I was doing to you." She forgave him, but she did not return. The land that had once felt like a prison no longer called to her. She had found her home, not in a cabin or a town, but in the heart of the man who had risked everything to save her. Years later, Clara and Waya's story became a quiet legend told along the frontier. Travelers spoke of the settler girl who was forced into a cruel marriage, only to be rescued by the warrior who showed her what love truly meant. Together, they built a life in the forest, raising children who carried both bloodlines, living proof that compassion could heal even the deepest divides. Whenever the sun set over the trees and the wind rustled through the leaves, Clara would hold her husband's hand and whisper, "You saved me once, Waya. But more than that, you taught me how to live." And he would smile, replying, "No, Ahioka. You saved yourself. I only helped you find the way." Their love became a symbol of hope, the kind that blooms even in the harshest lands, reminding everyone that freedom and love are worth fighting for.